Hey everybody, Who's Your Jedi here with kind of a big catch-up in terms of Supergirl. Um, just for various reasons, particularly being that I've started taking some online college classes. The last, well basically since January, a lot of my free time has been going to that, as well as other things. Of course I've still got my own life, and you gotta have some time to have fun and whatnot. And just as things played out, it always kind of seemed to end up being Supergirl that would end up getting on the bottom of the priority list. But now that we're entering the end game for all of our shows here that I've been reviewing this season, I'm going to try to do a better job of keeping everything on a more even keel until everything is wrapped up. So let's kind of get right into it. So since the show came back, there's been quite a bit of interesting stuff going on. Everybody's sort of had their little moments to shine. Wynn got an episode that was really more or less all about himself, which I thought was really cool. I thought something like this, particularly following up on the whole thing like, oh, hey, your dad is the toy man, that's something that's really kind of been lagging behind. And now, it's been in the background. It hadn't really been touched on for a long time. And then we get more of an episode, most of an episode that's really all about that. The idea of like a female toy man, I actually think that's pretty cool. Kind of an interesting idea, and just sort of really does a lot to sort of flesh Wynn out as a character, and kind of remind us that hey, he's been there since the very beginning. He's got his own history. He's got his own things to deal with, and his own interesting backstory that has ties to the greater Supergirl mythology. Um, Sadly, actually, now that I think about it, there's really not a huge amount of stuff for me to say about Jimmy these episodes here that really jumps to my mind. Um, really liked what's been going on with Mon-El. I mean, he finally gets the Valor costume, which it never really hit me until I saw him in that outfit, just how much of an inversion of the Superman slash Supergirl costume Mon-El's outfit really is. I mean, the super outfit is primarily blue with a red cape. His is primarily red with a blue cape. Okay, and there's an earthquake going on. Okay, yeah. I'm recording this during an earthquake. Does not feel like a strong one, but you'll pardon me if I slow down while I make sure that everything's cool. Okay. Uh, okay, sorry about that. But yeah, I do live in Japan, and earthquakes are kind of a thing here, and I do live in a city that was seriously rocked by an earthquake. I mean, like major devastation. Well, serious damage anyway. Just over 2 years ago. So forgive me if I'm a little twitchy about that. If you've never been in an earthquake, it's quite a freaky experience. But anyway, um, so getting back on point. Um, Also really liked when there was the whole anger play going on that Kara sort of let loose on Mon-El, some of her not unjustified anger at him. And, Mon-El, to his credit, did own up to a lot of that. So, yeah, I mean, it's always interesting the little things that people push into the back of their mind. There's this really great idea of cooked up by Carl Jung of the shadow, the part of ourselves that we repress, our the feelings we don't like to think about, the thoughts that we like to push away. If you're familiar with the Persona games, particularly Persona 4, there's a lot of that in there. And if you're not familiar with those games, dear Lord, go and try them because they're awesome. Especially out of all of them, Persona 4 is actually my favorite. Anyway, and speaking of repressed dark sides, we get to finally see more of what's going on with the whole Rain plot line, and the real contrast between Pestilence and Rain is that Pestilence House ultimately embraces who and what she is, while Rain is rejecting it. It's sort of like, no, I don't want to be this. I don't want to be this harbinger of destruction. And this all kind of feeds in nicely, in a way, to what's going on with the mission that the Legion was on. I mean, Mon-El has to deal with the fact that his own wife and his friend deceived him, and kind of kept the whole, the whole time traveling thing. You can't go back. You're kind of stuck here in the future. Well, I mean, yeah. But this is really a nice example of what makes good drama. And it's been said that the essence of drama is conflict. And in any good series, superhero or not, you really want to have there be conflict by people who are on the same side just as much as there is conflict with the antagonists. Like the old Avengers comics were really, really great at this. Especially if you go back and read them, like there was just so much times where the Avengers were just at each other's throats as much as they were fighting bad guys. Hawkeye and Iron Man having shouting matches with each other. Iron Man and Captain America getting into arguments. I mean, it was just endless. The Avengers just constantly butting heads with each other. And the thing is, though, there were genuinely justifiable and believable reasons as to why these people who were on the same team, on the same side, were constantly going at each other like this. And that's part of what made those stories so great. And it applies to, any other superhero series, any other real drama series, is that you do want to have these moments. You have to have, and one thing I've noticed is, while people on the same group, on the same page, as team, whatever, will nominally pay allegiance to a stated goal. Like the Avengers is, okay, we're going to protect humanity. Justice League, okay, we're going to protect humanity, and all of this. They also have other loyalties. They might have loyalties to, family members, to personal ideologies, to, another group, like in the case of Tony Stark, a business. They might have, ties to people who are, on the shady side. They might have ties to, I mean, it doesn't really matter. It's just that people are never just allied or have allegiance to just one single thing. And that is the only thing in their life that they care about. If you have a character like that, they're going to be flat and boring and not interesting. And what you need to do to make good drama is put these multiple allegiances between characters against each other. It's like one person's brother is accused of a crime. One person's like, well, they're accused of a crime. We've got to, arrest them. The other person's like, no, this is my brother. You can't do that. Well, I mean, that's a dirt simple example, but you get the idea. Anyway. I do also like what they're doing with Myron, with his whole basically Martian dementia thing. The only thing that really bothers me about that is that, the Martians come from this extremely advanced, technologically advanced civilization, more advanced than Earth. And yet here on Earth, in recent years, scientists have made what seem to be really, really exciting strides in combating dementia. Now, granted, the Martians are aliens, so maybe that particular nut is tougher to crack for them. But given the level of technology that you would need to build spaceships and whatnot, and become an interplanetary civilization, the idea that you can't beat something like that your medical science remains unable to crack that particular nut, just doesn't really seem very believable. I mean, scientists have also made in recent years, really important steps in fighting cancer and AIDS. Now, while there's no cure on the immediate horizon for any of these things, it's not hard to believe that down the road, 100 years, maybe even less, that scientists really could find ways to eradicate these problems. And if that's the case, then, so much of what we see here is not exactly believable. I mean, there's the famous story with, from the Marvel comics, where the original Captain Marvel, died of cancer, and it was stated that magic couldn't get rid of cancer. All these other alien civilizations out in the galaxy, they too had failed to cure cancer. Of course, then there was a throwaway line in Black Panther where they kind of mentioned, oh yeah, Wakanda cured cancer, but they decided not to share the cure with the rest of the world because they thought the world might abuse this. Which means, of course, that Wakanda stood by and let a great hero like Captain Marvel die because they decided to assume the worst about everybody. And, all the other living beings on Earth who died of cancer, and all the other beings out in the galaxy. And actually, now that I think about it, I think the whole Wakanda has the cure for cancer thing has actually been brought up again in the past. But again, you kind of have to sometimes make allowances for drama. I mean, if you say like, oh, they're dying of, fancy made-up illness, whatnot, well, okay, that's all well and good, but it's just that. It's something you made up. If you put it in terms of an actual disease that people know, that they have probably had their lives touched by, like, okay, yeah, I mean, I've known people in my family have had cancer, people in my family have had dementia. It's really just a heartbreaking thing to see what something like that, those diseases, can do to people that you have loved your entire life. It's the sort of thing that resonates. So sure, it might not be completely realistic to have this particular disease affecting someone in this particular set of sci-fi circumstances, but it's what's going to resonate with people. It's what's going to strike them far more than anything that's some made-up disease. I mean, just cancer or dementia with the serial numbers filed up and a made-up name slapped on it. Sure, you can do that, but, actual names have power. Anyway, guys, I think on that rather downer note, this is a good place to wrap things up. Thanks for sticking with me through these bumps in the schedule. It's been a tough time, but I'm going to be taking other classes this year. This is kind of going to be a real back-to-school year for me for various reasons. So, but summer's coming up, and I'm planning to get a lot of that out of the way as much as I possibly can before the new fall TV season starts. So hopefully in a few months, when things pick back up again for fall, we'll be able to resume our more regular schedule. And of course, during that time, I'm going to have a think about exactly what's going to be on the docket, which you guys will hear about when it's time. So guys, until then, thanks for joining me. As always, take care and have a good one.